everyone, and welcome to a tutorial series for the NPC Manager system. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at profiles and points of interest. And we're specifically going to create our very first POI. We're going to add our entrances and spawners. We're going to look at stations, including all of the general options, the different types, and the station interactions. And we're finally going to create a profile that's going to tell our NPC to actually roam around our POI and go to different stations. So if we jump back into Unreal, we are exactly where we left off. This series is supposed to be sequential, so if you didn't watch the previous video, make sure that you do watch it, at least the part where we create our NPC. But we have our NPC created here, NPC tutorial. And if you are here on the level tutorial, you'll see that we have a bunch of stuff already set up. I have this little mock house that you see here with a little door already set up for us to create our POI. And the first thing we'll do is we need to create a point of interest class. So if we navigate to NPC Manager Blueprints, we're going to POIs, that folder here. We're going to click on it. And we're going to base classes. And these are all of the base classes that have all of the functionality. Now, you don't want to use the base POI class. You want to create a child class that you will actually use in your game. So right click here, click on Create Child Blueprint Class, and we are going to rename this POI Tutorial. Why not? And we're going to move this to the top folder just to keep things organized. And if I go one level up, now we have POI tutorial. And all we're going to do is we're going to drag this to our scene. And I specifically put this in the center of the world. So if you click on location on the little yellow arrow here, it'll automatically center it there. However, it's not covering the entire area. And you notice that the POI has two volumes, right? The inner one is called the area. And the outer one is called the player trigger scale, or the player trigger area rather. And that is used because we can actually spawn and despawn NPCs at runtime when the player gets nearby. That is actually recommended behavior. If you just want NPCs to be roaming around a specific POI for gameplay purposes, you probably just want to have those spawned when the player is near, and when he leaves, you want to despawn them. There's no reason to have NPCs kind of doing their thing when the player can't even see them or even know they exist. So we're going to cover our house and we're going to do that with the scale here. So we're going to increase the scale and we're going to make it slightly bigger than the actual house. It doesn't have to be exact, but we want to make it slightly bigger, so this maybe this size here, just to cover the area. And we're going to leave this player trigger here. We're not going to use it for now. We're going to just spawn them as soon as play begins. So we covered the area for our POI. And now we want to add our entrance. We always want to have at least one entrance per POI or you're going to encounter issues. So go back to POI, base classes, and we can grab this entrance base class and we'll just drop it directly in our level. Notice that it basically looks like a door. We're going to align it with our prop door here, and we're going to make it be right behind, but inside that area. All of the different things in the POI need to be inside that area or you'll have issues. And this door right here is a simple prop door that I've had here for demonstration purposes. When the player or NPC gets nearby, you can press E, and through an interface call, it'll just open the door. So what we want is we want to have the NPC know that the entrance is here. So when the NPC is in the world and tries to come to our POI, it'll come through the door, open it, and once it arrives at the entrance, it'll request from the manager a station. We're going to see that in a second. So that's why it's important to have one. Notice that we can have more than one entrance. So if you have a park, say that your POI could literally be a park with 10 different entrances based on your pathways or your streets. It doesn't matter. You just need to have at least one. And the NPC will choose the closest entrance to wherever he is in the world and we'll choose that. So if the NPC is here and you have one entrance here, 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 doesn't matter, it'll choose the closest entrance, which obviously makes sense, and it'll go through there. We also want to spawn our NPC. You don't have to, but we might as well just set it up here. And you can see that we have a class called POI spawner, and we'll just add it, and we'll just make the guy appear here. Same as the entrance, we can have more than one spawner per POI, and actually I recommend it. If you have a lot of NPCs spawning in one point of interest, it's probably a good idea to have many different locations, and then the spawner will pick a random, POI will pick a random spawner, and the NPCs will spawn in a different place. That spreads them out and supposed to having all of them spawn in this one little area, which again can look kind of ugly when they're all trying to move around. All right, and the last thing is we want to add stations to our POI. So go back to blueprints, and now we're going to the folder named stations, and notice that we have a bunch of pre-made stations. All of these are made for demonstration purposes, and we're just going to use this for now. But just know that there is a base class here, and this is the actual blueprint for the station. So if you wanted to create your own station, which of course you should, when you add your own animations, what you would do is you would right click here and you would create a child blueprint. And all of these are children of that base class. For now though, we want to just grab a few of these and dump them in our little house. So why don't we grab a couch, and we'll just kind of rotate the couch here 90 degrees, and we can duplicate the couch and just kind of set it like this. Why not? So we can have one of these two couches. We could have a working station, and you can put them anywhere you want inside the POI. I'm just keeping them in the same area so the NPC doesn't waste a lot of time walking around, right? So he can come into this area and sit, or he can come here and work. Or how about we have a little idle station here. And oops, and come on now. There we go. We'll rotate the station here, and the NPC can choose to come here and just kind of hang out. And this basically just has idle animations. And right there, we just have our own basic little house, right? We have an entrance, we have a spawner, and we have a few stations that the NPC can use to roam around inside. Now, this is very important. We want to make sure that we click on the base class, the POI, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of things here that the POI needs to keep track of. We can add them manually, but we're not going to do that. What we're going to do instead is we're going to use Sublutility to do that for us. This is how I recommend you do it. So scroll all the way down into this section here, and you'll have two buttons, 1 and 2. Press them in that order. Populate elements. It'll actually do a trace within this volume here and grab all of the elements. And then you want to categorize the stations based on type. And that automatically sets everything up for you. That's pretty much it. Go ahead and save all. And if you scroll up, you'll notice that now we have stations, regular stations in this map. We have an entrance. We have regular stations. We even have spawners, as you can see here, spawn points. All right. The next thing we'll do is we want this POI to actually spawn our NPC. Right now it doesn't do anything. So right here on the spawn area, there's an NPC list. Click on the plus, expand, and now we have to choose our NPC class. So if you click on the arrow here, you can add any NPC, any actor really that you want. We want to have the one that we created. So why don't we start typing tutorial? And notice that we have BP NPC tutorial. That is the same NPC that we created earlier, and we're going to be using. This is this NPC right here. Except we don't want him in the level. We're going to delete him here. We want him to spawn here on begin play. Notice that we have a number to spawn here. That means that we can spawn more than one of the same NPC. Especially with the options of adding random names. You could have the same NPC class spawn with a different name to populate your scene. You can also add as many different NPC types as you want, and each NPC class will have its own number here. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of flexibility here. Let's go ahead and go to that NPC. You can click on the little icon here, and we're going to open him and click on open. And there's one more thing that we need to do before we can actually see all this play out. We need to create a profile. If you click on the controller here and go under profiles, you'll see that we don't have a profile, meaning the NPC doesn't know what to do. So let's do that right now. Click on blueprints, profiles, and we're going again, same concept, going to the base class, and we're going to create a child blueprint from the profile base. And let's rename this profile tutorial. This is going to be the profile that we use for the entire series. We're going to be changing it as we see fit. And let's move this to the top folder here. And now we have our profile tutorial. Excuse me. So now we go back to our NPC, and under profile, we are going to select tutorial. So start typing. And as soon as I start typing tutorial, you see that we have the profile here. We add it, we compile, we hit save. That's pretty much it. So let's open our profile, and you'll see here under setup all of the settings for our profile. So what is a profile? In the simplest term, a profile is simply a list of tasks. A task is something that you want the NPC to do. It's as simple as that. And you can see that a profile has a list of tasks, a task order, and what happens when the profile ends, right? So the idea here would be you have 2 or 3 things that you want your NPC to do. You add them on your task list. Then you specify the order in which those need to be executed. You want them to be sequential, that's default. So execute task 1, 2, 3, 4. You want them to be random, it'll pick a random task and execute it. Or custom, which is you write your own logic to determine which task actually gets executed. We're going to look at this on another video. This is a little bit more advanced, but you can add your own logic to determine which task runs where. A little more complex, but gives you the ability, if you know what you're doing, to really customize the system. And finally, what happens when all of the tasks are done, right? Say you have 3 and the NPC finishes the 3rd task. Well, here's when you go into your execution mode. You can either repeat the profile indefinitely, which means that once the tasks are done, you'll go back to the first one. You can go home after the profile is completed, and you will require to have a home base assigned, or you can stay at that last one indefinitely. So up to you how you want to handle it. I find that the repeating indefinitely is probably the most common one you're going to use. So you have a couple of tasks. Once it finishes, it'll just start over again and again and again. It keeps the NPC mobile in your level. It keeps the NPC busy as long as you're playing, and it just probably makes it more dynamic. So let's go ahead and add our first task, expand, and you'll see that the first thing is a task mode. And if I click here, you'll see that there are different things that you can do. You can either use a point of interest, which is what we're going to do in this video. We can use a standard task. These are more generic things that the NPC can do. You can use a specific location in your level, or you can do a custom task. And again, that's going to be a more advanced video where I show you how you can write your own logic to have the NPC pretty much do whatever you want within that profile. So we're going to keep it at, we want to use a point of interest. And if that's the case, we come into the POI class list, click on the plus, and let's add our own. And we start typing tutorial, and we have the POI that we just created that's on the level called tutorial, and we add it here. Compile and save. Notice that we have a list. If you add more than one POI class, the NPC will pick a random POI for this task. So again, the ability to add more randomness to your NPCs is important. You may have 2 or 3 different POIs, and you may want the NPC to have a random POI assigned. One could be shops in your game, or a park, or a home, whatever, right? So you can set up all these different POIs in your map, and then based on the profile, the NPC will decide what it needs to do. You decided that you wanted to go only to POI tutorial, and the next setting that we want to look at is this duration range. And this is in seconds. It is a min and max. So what we're telling the NPC is that we want him to execute task 0 between 260 to 300 seconds. Pick a random time. And then once it finishes this, it'll go to the next task. If there is no next task, then it'll go to the mode here, and then if it says execute profile indefinitely, it'll restart the task again. That's pretty much it. There are other settings here that we're not going to look at, but I do want to mention percent chance to execute, and this is in decimal, so 1 means 100%. What if you make that less than 100%? Say that you have 50% chance or 0.5. When the NPC comes here and tries to execute task 0, it'll use that percent chance. If it can execute it, it'll do it. If it cannot, say that it's only 50% chance, it'll go to the next task on the list. So again, you can add more randomness. You can have 5 different tasks, each one with a small chance of occurring, and then by that logic, it'll choose a random task based on that. You can obviously do the same thing by using random task order. It will not respect the actual order. It'll just pick a random task every single time with the chance of picking the same task more than once. All right. And finally, can it be interrupted? This is important because when the NPC interacts with the player, you can actually interrupt or pause the routine. Do you want to allow this task to be interrupted? And that's when you select yes or no. All right, let's go back to our level. We've done all that. And if we did everything correctly, when we hit play, this will spawn one NPC and it will just start working in one of these stations here. So click on play. Notice that we do have an NPC. And I'm going to press E to open the door. And notice that our NPC has a default name of NPC, and he's just hanging out in that default station that we placed here. And it'll stay here between 10 seconds to 30 seconds. That's the default. We're going to take a look at those in a second. And when that finishes, it'll pick another station, like this guy here, and it'll just sit here and do the same thing. So that's working. Great. Let's go to our NPC and give him a random name just to make it more interesting. Go to General Settings, pick Random Name, and we're going to stay with the male name. So you can change it to female names here if you wanted to. And this is just a list of the most, I think it's 100 most popular names in the US for males and females. And I just added that for context. Now let's take a look at the specific stations. How do you know how long the NPC will stay in one station? How do you control that? So let's choose this one right here. And we're going to take a look at some of the settings here. First, the general settings. We have a few things here, like the area visible. You can see here if we hide it, it just kind of hides it here. Whether it's hidden or not, and whether the pose, which is this yellow pose asset, is actually visible or hidden. By default, when you hit play, they will be hidden. But if you wanted to keep them visible just for testing purposes to see where the NPCs are supposed to go, you can make them visible. So let's choose this one here that has no props and deselect area and pose. And when we hit play, you'll see that you can actually see this as you're playing, so you know what areas the NPCs can go. There's also a prop mesh that you can add. And you can see here, obviously, this is just a simple static mesh. In this case, there's this little bench. In this case, it'll be this couch, obviously. So you can have any props and you can align them properly to the animation here. You have this nav mesh bounce volume scale, and I'm going to select this one. And if I get a little closer, you'll see right here this little cube area here. And if I press P on my keyboard, this is basically the nav mesh for the entire level. Notice that we are cutting out part of the nav mesh here. And the reason for that is because we don't want NPCs to walk over the prop. We want them to know that there's something here and you want to walk around it. So based on the size of the prop, you can play around with these settings and make this bigger or smaller to affect the actual nav mesh. So keep that in mind when you're creating your own custom ones. Play around with these values and make sure that they make sense for you. Pose mesh and material, honestly, I wouldn't touch this. This is just the mesh that is using to pose. And then the material, in this case, I just have this yellow. It makes it really easy to see the silhouette and gives an idea of exactly what's happening there. Okay, then we have the station options. Excuse me. And we're going to take a look at the types in just a second. But there are 3 different types of stations. Regular is the default one. It can be used by any NPC randomly. You have linked, and you can see there it says you can link 1 or more stations and it will be part of the priority queue. Again, we'll see that in a second. And then sequence, we want this station to be part of a specific sequence. Let's go back and just leave it as regular. And then you'll see that we have regular animations and linked animations. And when you open the regular animations, you'll see that we have intro clip, loop clips, and outro clips. And in this case, we only have a loop. We want this guy to hammer away every single time when the station is active. However, there are certain animations that require an intro and an outro. For example, sitting. If I click here and I go to the station settings, notice that I have one intro animation, and this is basically the NPC going from standing to sitting. This will play. Then you'll have a loop animation that will loop for the duration of the station, and this is just the NPC literally sitting there. And then finally, when it's finished, it'll play the outro animation, which shows the NPC actually standing and then walking away. This is very important to understand because any animation that has those transitional states, you need to cut it out individually into separate clips and put them here. Notice that this is an array, so you can add many of the same type and a random clip will be selected. So say that the intro and the outro are the same, they're just sitting, but then maybe you have 2 or 3 different versions of the loops. Maybe in one, the NPC is just looking up and down, and the other one, he's moving his hands, whatever it is. You can add them here and it'll respect that order. Also, you can spawn, you can do sound clips. In this case, this guy doesn't have a sound clip, but this one does. And you can add as many sound clips as you want. And in this case, there's just one sound clip of a hammer. And this is what you hear when the guy's hammering around, and you get close, you'll hear the guy actually hammering away. And you can also have props. Notice that when this guy's hammering, a hammer appears. How do you add that? Well, you have a prop list, and you have it right here. And in this case, a prop can be either a skeletal mesh or a static mesh, depending on what you want. And one of these will spawn, and then it'll be attached to a socket. And in this case, the NPC already comes with a socket on the right hand, hand_R socket. It also comes with a head socket for the hat, but you can add as many sockets as you want to your NPCs. So keep that in mind again. It's up to you to decide how you want to spawn these and where. And then you have an offset and an attach rotation. And this is again to give you flexibility depending on the rotation of your mesh. When it attaches to the hand socket or the head, maybe it's crooked or not in the right angle, and you can use these values here, play around with these values to adjust exactly where that is attached. So again, gives you more flexibility. And finally, you have a Boolean called a random prop. And that is what happens if you have more than one prop. If you have more than one prop, like in this sitting station here, notice that we have one prop, which is a top hat, and another prop, which is a monocle. Why? Because why not, right? If you don't select random prop, both props will appear. And in this case, this guy will have a top hat and a monocle. If you select random prop, it'll pick one prop out of the list and it'll spawn it. So again, more flexibility. You can have many props at the same time, or you can have random props from the list. No, go ahead and close that. Then you have the same options for the link station animations, which we'll look in a second. And then you have a duration range, which is important. How long will the NPC be in this station? Same as the other settings, there's a min and max in seconds. So that means that the NPC, once it comes here, it'll pick a random time between 10 seconds to 30 seconds to stay in this station. Once it finishes, it'll play the outro animation, it'll get up, it'll come back to the POI and request another free station. Once it receives the new station, it'll go to the new station and the process will start over. So every single station has its own duration range and you can play around with those. Maybe some you want them to be fairly quick and maybe some you want them to be longer. Up to you. You can play around with these values here. And allow player interaction. Again, this is similar to the other settings that we saw earlier. Do you want the NPC to respond to a player interaction? When the player gets close, you can actually interact with the NPC. This could be for a dialogue system or for whatever reason. Do you want the NPC, while being in this station, to be allowed to interact? This is ticked to true by default, but for example, for the sleep station, the one with the bed, I have it set up to false. So if an NPC is sleeping and the player goes and tries to interact, the NPC will just ignore it because, hey, the NPC is sleeping, right? So that's a use case right there. Maybe you don't want the player to get a quest when the NPC is asleep, right? So you can choose when to do that. Finally, two other options. You can choose to use the station only once or play the animation only once. We're going to take a look at this example really quickly when we look at an interaction. And finally, you have interaction options here. So we'll leave that for in a little bit in the video when we look at how stations interact. But I wanted to give you guys a lot more detail as to how these stations work. Let's go back to our NPC here, and we're going to use our first debug option. Go to the controller, under setup, go to debug options, click on debug routine. Click on compile and save, and this will show us exactly how the routine is being played in the NPC. So notice here that as the NPC is going about its day, I'm going to kind of release the mouse. Notice that we have the name and the HP. We have the current state of the NPC. He is at a station right now. He is in a POI, current POI called POI tutorial. Notice that his assigned station is sit couch 2, which this is what he has right now. The task, our time remaining is 254 seconds, but the station time is only, well, there you go, finished. So now he needs a new station. And in this case, it picked 15 seconds. It also shows you the animation that is playing. In this case, we only have one. And whether there's a player interaction. In the current time, that only appears if you're using the day-night cycle. Okay? Now, how do these stations use sound or interactions? And that's really interesting. That actually comes from the animation blueprint. So if we go to our NPC, go to the viewport, select our mesh, and we're going to go into the animation class. Click here on this little icon. It'll take you straight where you need to go. Go ahead and open this. You'll notice that if you look at under the event graph, we have not only the simple event that tells the NPC, are you in the air or not? What's your speed? And some head rotation stuff. We have two animation notifiers here called station sound and station action. And this is how the animation works. If you have an animation, for example, let's go to animation work. That's the one we've seen before. Right here. And I'm going to pause this. And if I scroll down, notice that we have this notifies. And this animation notify is called station sound. You need to have the spelling exactly how it appears here. And what happens is when the animation is playing and it hits this mark here, which is of course when the hammer hits the table, you want to call this animation notify, called station sound. And raise the hand, hammer again, sound. So sound, sound, sound. And when this is called, this is basically called, and then you call the event play animation sound. And this is basically going to use whatever sound you have specified here under the sound clips. So that's basically the way you would do it. You add the sound to the specific station, but based on the animation, that's when you're going to call the sound. And the reason for that is because maybe you have two different animations here with two different timings of hitting the hammer. So you want the sound to be accurate to the animation and not the other way around. Okay? So it's a little bit more convoluted, but it's actually fairly simple. I may make a video later on how to create a custom station with a new animation, and I'll show you how to add the sounds here. But that's basically the main idea. Okay? Now let's go back to our slide here. All right, so we covered the general options. And now we need to cover the station types. And we're not going to spend too much time here, but I do want to mention the different types. So right now, if I click play, we've seen this before. We have our NPC just go to a random station, and these are all general, regular stations. However, let's say that you want the NPC to follow a specific order, or you want NPCs to fill out stations on a priority queue. So what would happen here is, let's grab our, actually, let's go to our stations. And let's grab our talk station. Where is that? Right here. And we're going to move this guy here. Because why not? Whoops. Okay. And we're going to clone this guy, and we're going to move him here. Okay. So in other words, what this is showing is that two NPCs are going to look like they're talking to each other, right? They're really close and they're talking. However, what happens if you only have one NPC? If you had talk animations here and one NPC comes here and gets assigned this station, he'll look like he's just talking to himself, right? He'll be making all the moves, the hand movements, and it'll just look off, right? The NPC is not talking to anybody else. So why is he making those moves, right? And that is when the link station type appears. If you go here and select these two stations, under station options, we're going to change the type from regular to linked. Notice that we changed the color. This is just a visual representation. By the way, all it does is changes the color so you know that these are linked. And then we have to add the link stations here. So for this station, we are linking this station to this other station here. And we're going to do the same here. We're going to grab this station and link it to the other station. And basically what we're saying is that these two stations are linked. And what that means is that when both of these stations are occupied, we will actually play the linked animations. And if they are not both occupied, we will play the regular animations. And what that allows you to do is that if only one NPC is in the scene and it comes to one of these stations, like this one, it'll say, hey, there is no other NPC here, so I'm going to default to my regular animations. And the regular animations are idle. But if another NPC arrives here and both stations are occupied, we will play the linked station animations. And the linked station animations are the talking animations. So you can see how this can be useful, because now every single station could potentially have two sets of animations that will react whether the NPCs the NPCs have other NPCs using the nearby stations. That's pretty much it. That is the general idea. And to demonstrate this way easier, let's go ahead and move these other stations out of the way. Otherwise, they'll be assigned randomly. So we're just going to move this out of the way. And then we have to remember, every time we make a change, we want to come back and we want to use the utility. And we're going to populate the elements. We want to categorize the stations. And if we go back up, you'll notice that now we have two stations, talk and talk 2. And we have, on the regular map, we have these two stations. But if they are linked, which this will be populated, they will be filled on a priority queue. So if you have many stations, the POI manager will try to fill the linked stations first. And then after that, then you'll get other stations. So if we hit play here, notice that I'm going to open the door. This guy, Ethan, is playing the idle animation, as you can see here, because there is no other NPC here. And now he's switching back and forth. But if we go back here and say, hey, let's actually have two NPCs. NPC spawns, we're going to have two NPCs here. And we click on play. Now we have two different NPCs. And notice that their animations are different. They're talking. And the animations that these guys are playing are now the talk animations, as you can see here. And as soon as this guy leaves, they get populated again because we only have two stations, and you can see that they're playing the talk animations. That is the general idea. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this because the video is getting really long, but that is the general idea of the stations. You can play different animations based on the station type. Let's move these guys out of the way, and let's look at the other type of stations, which are sequential. And for these, let's just create, let's just do 3 simple ones. Let's just do cheer. I'm gonna kind of move them here. Then we'll have idle. And this can be any stations, by the way. And let's do a third one, which is gonna be working. Literally, it doesn't really matter. They can be whichever stations. And I'm going to choose these 3 stations. And I'm going to the station options. I'm going to select sequence. Notice that they again change colors to like a little green. And these are going to be in a sequence. That's telling the POI that they're going to be in a sequence. However, there's one more thing we need to do because the POI doesn't know the order of the sequence. So we do need to create that. So we go back to the POI here. We click on populate elements and categorize them. And now we picked up these 3. But we need to go to setup, station sequences, and we need to add a sequence. And we can have more than one sequence per POI. So you can have these 3 be a sequence, 2 be a sequence, 5 over here be a sequence. It doesn't really matter. You can have as many sequences as you want. We're going to create only one. And this sequence, which is sequence 0, we're going to expand it. And notice now that we have an ordered list. we're going to click on plus 3 times, and we're going to select the first station. And you can use the little eyedropper tool here to make it simple. Click and select this station. Click and select this station. And click and select this station. So now we've told the POI that there is a sequence, and it's going to start with cheer, then idle, then working. And when the sequence ends, the NPC will go back to the first station here. If there are more stations available, then the NPC could either go back to the original sequence, or it can go to another random station. In this example, we're keeping it simple. We're just going to keep it like that. So we're going to go ahead, and we only want to spawn one NPC now, just to, again, keep things simple. So click on 1, and we're going to, I think I did it, populate, categorize. We're going to hit play, and notice that the NPC goes to cheer first. And then notice that we have about 10 more seconds. And once this is done, it'll go to idle, which is around here. And then it'll go to work. So let's see. Finishes, goes to the next one, which is idle. And it'll stay here for another 18 seconds. I should have made the times smaller to keep the video shorter, guys. Sorry about that. But there you go, 10 more seconds. I just want to show that it works. And then once it's done, it'll come back here, and it'll be the last station on the sequence, and it'll just go ahead and work. And notice that you hear the sound. We talked about this earlier, and the sound coincides with the hammering. And if I go far enough, notice that the sound disappears. There is also a attenuation settings there. And notice that now we go back to the first station, which is cheer, and the cycle repeats itself. All right, very cool. All right, guys, and the last thing we want to mention is station interactions. And again, I'm sorry, this is probably going to be the longest video in the tutorial series, but we do want to understand all of the different options here because this is core to the system. So let's just go ahead and move these guys out of the way. And we're creating a lot of stuff here that we're not using, but that's okay. And let's use a station that we already have. It's called push button station. And you've seen this before in the showcase level if you played it, but that's all right. We're going to reuse it here because it already has all of the settings nicely done for us. And all this station is a simple animation of the NPC pressing this little red button here. And notice that automatically, by default, I have, whoops, right here under regular, I have this station to be only used once and the animation to only play once. So we only want the NPC to play this animation once, which is going to press the button and be done. And once the animation is finished, it'll ask for a new station. And if there is no free station, which in this case there isn't, the NPC will then roam inside the POI randomly. And that's a fallback behavior because, again, based on the randomness of your world, you may not have a station free for an NPC. So the NPC is not going to stand idle, it'll just roam around. And that's going to be the expected behavior. Okay? So let's just go ahead and do the same thing. Populate elements, categorize stations, and we're going to click play here, and we're going to rush here to see what happens. Notice that Alan pressed the button. And it seems that there's a small bug here that I have to look into. He pressed it more than once, but notice that the NPC, after pressing it, goes around roaming. That's it. Nothing happened. And of course, that's because we did not specify an interaction object. So if you go to interaction options, you see that we have use interactions and we have an actor list. So let's go ahead and use the actor that we had already set up for our showcase level. And what we can do here is we go under blueprints, showcase level, and we have a little BP called BP living room. And we can just literally drag it here. There we go. And all we'll do on this station here is we're going to press use interactions and click on actor list, and we're going to add this actor. That is it. We're using a generic interaction interface that we're going to be calling for this actor, and then it is up to the actor to determine what will happen. And you can see it here. You can see that we have NPC interaction interface. This will be called by default by the station, and then in this case, this blueprint will call this event, which will change the materials and turn on the light. So literally any blueprint can implement this interface, and you can write your own code as to what exactly happens. That could be a platform activating, a door opening, literally anything you want, as long as you use the correct interface. Okay, and let's do the same thing now. Let's click on play, and let's see what happens. He presses the button, and notice that this has been activated, and it worked. And it only happened once because, again, I had the do once node. Okay. Now here, he's supposed to only do it once. Chances are by the time you watch this video, I'm going to have that fixed. I'm doing this tutorial right before this is released. So I'm going to fix that small bug. So you won't see that issue when you're playing around with it. But just know that if you select play animation once, it'll just play once. Okay. All right, guys. So a lot of information covered in this video. I'm sorry for the length, but I wanted to get all of this into one video. So now you know all of the main options for your stations. So again, we've created a point of interest. We looked at the spawners and entrances. We looked at the stations, and we even created a profile. In the next video, we're going to make an actual routine where the same profile that we created now is going to do more than just stay in this POI. We want now the AI to hang out here, but also perhaps to go to this volume here or follow this path. And we're going to see exactly what those mean in the next video. All right. Thank you guys so much. If you have any questions while you're watching this, feel free to email me directly at this address here. Otherwise, join our Discord and DM me directly. I'm pretty active there. If not, just join our Discord. It's a pretty cool community. You can even showcase your projects in a specific channel there. So hope to see you there. Hope you like this video, and I will talk to you in the next one.